Okay, welcome to language for Thursday, February 18th. All right, and today we are doing page 119 and 120. All right, so this is just one paper, but we're doing the front and the back, which is not typical, but every now and then they have us do both sides, and that's what we're doing today. 119, 120. So find page 119, make sure you have it ready. And we are going to be learning some new things today, but we're also going to be reviewing for the language quiz, which will be tomorrow if we have school or when we return. So you need to make sure you also pay attention for that. I am going to do the review first, okay? And then I will talk to you about the new things and do the paper with you. I will do both sides with you, so please be paying attention. All right, so on the quiz, we're going to be doing contractions. So that's the first chart that I want to do with you, is review with you, excuse me, bumping the camera again, to review with you about contractions. All right, so let's begin with not, okay? So we know that a contraction is made up of two words, okay? And the second word is the one that is made into the contraction. The first word, normally you write all of the first word. There are a couple of exceptions that we talked about, and when we get to those, we will talk about them, okay? But the second word is the one that makes a contraction. For when you're using not as your second word, you're going to do N', which means that's where you took out the O, so that is where the apostrophe goes, where you took out the letter. N-O-T, you take out the O, so it's N'. All right, and this is for when not is the second word. All right, so here we have aren't. All right, that comes from are not. So you put all of are, N'. Didn't, all of did, N'. Hadn't, all of had, N'. Isn't, is not, all of is, N'. Then we come to that tricky one that I told you about, the word won't. The thing you have to remember about won't is that is the contraction for will not. Will not becomes won't. So if you see won't and they ask you what two words make up won't, you need to remember will not. W-I-L-L-N-O-T. Will not. Okay? If they have will not and want you to make it into a contraction, you need to remember to change it to won't. Will not becomes won't. I will not go with you. I won't go with you. It doesn't even make sense to say I willn't go with you, does it? No, it becomes the word won't. All right, and the other tricky one was the word can't. All right, and that is because can't comes from cannot, and cannot is just one word, C-A-N-N-O-T. All right, so then you just end up with C-A-N'. You don't end up with all those N's. You just end up with C-A-N'. Can't. All right, don't is from do not, so you have all of do and then N'. Hasn't is from has not, so all of has, N'. Shouldn't, all of should, N'. Wouldn't, all of would, N'. Couldn't, all of could, N'. Doesn't, all of does, N'. Be careful on doesn't because some of you don't know how to spell does and you keep spelling it wrong even though it's right there to copy. Usually they've given you the words does not. Does is D-O-E-S. Make sure you're spelling it correctly. If you spell it wrong, I will have to take off some points, or I might mark it wrong if you're not doing N'. On some of these. Haven't, the word have is H-A-V-E, so you need a E, N'. And wasn't, from the word was, not, W-A-S, all of was, N'. The other thing that some of you do is you think you hear, like in doesn't or wouldn't, you think you hear a E-N-T and you keep spelling it that way. That's not what you do. There is no E in there. Wouldn't, couldn't, there's no E. It's just the word would or could or does and N'. So make sure you're doing that carefully and correctly, not adding a letter that's not there. The only one that does have an E is the word have, because have is spelled with an E. H-A-V-E. You keep all of have and then an apostrophe T. All right, then we learned where the word are was the second word. Okay, so for are, you're taking out the A, so that's where the apostrophe goes. So it's apostrophe R-E. All right, they are, there. All of they, apostrophe R-E. The A is what's missing. Your, which is you are. This is the contraction for you are. So all of the word you, apostrophe R-E. We're is from we are. So all of the word we, apostrophe R-E. All right, then if you had the word is as the second word, not as the first word. Remember on this one we had is as the first word. So not was what was contracted. What if you have is as your second word, like in he is? Then you're just going to be doing apostrophe S because you're taking out the I. So where the I used to be, you're putting an apostrophe instead. So he is becomes he, all of he, apostrophe S. She is becomes she, apostrophe S. It is or its becomes it, apostrophe S for it is. And that is becomes that, all of that, apostrophe S. All right, if you have the word have as the second word, not as the first word like we did on this chart. On this chart, it was have not, right there, have not. So it was the first word, so you had all of have. But if you have as the second word, something have, then you're taking away the HA, take it away, and put the apostrophe where it used to be. So it's apostrophe VE, just the ending of the word have, apostrophe VE. So in the case of I have, I've, you have the capital I for I, then apostrophe VE, I have, I've already done my homework. You have, write all of you, apostrophe VE. We have, write all of the word we, and then apostrophe VE. And they have, they, all of they, don't forget they is EY, not AY, apostrophe VE. All right, and then for will being the second word. Now on this chart we had will as the first word, but remember that was won't. Will not becomes won't. But if will is the second word, then you can make it into a contraction by doing apostrophe LL. So therefore you're taking out the WI from the word will, it's taken away, and that's where you're going to put the apostrophe. Okay? So in the case of I will, it becomes I'll. So you put capital I, apostrophe LL. You will becomes you'll. You, all of the word you, apostrophe LL. He will becomes he'll. H-E, all of the word he, and then apostrophe LL. She will becomes she'll, all of she, apostrophe LL. We will becomes we'll, will go with you now, all of we, apostrophe LL. And they will becomes they'll, all of the word they, apostrophe LL. They'll listen to your story now. All right, so those are contractions that will be on the test. All right. The other thing we want to talk about that will be on the test is making your subject and verb agree. All right. So this is mostly talking about either the helping verbs or the non-action verbs. All right. And we learn them as am, is, are, was, were, had, has, have. On this chart, they have divided them up though. Am, is, was, and has are all used with the singular subjects. So if your subject is singular, you'll either be using the am, the is, the was, or the has. Or it could be the isn't, the wasn't, or the hasn't if they're trying to make it be negative. The plural subjects use are, were, or have, or it could be aren't, weren't, or haven't if they also are trying to make it be the negative. And then that little word had that we learned, it can go with either the singular or the plural. So you need to make sure you know that one, okay, because that is also, they will be giving you some sentences and some subjects. All right, so I'm going to give you a few right now, and I want you to see if you can think of what would be, okay? The students hasn't or haven't finished their homework yet. The students hasn't or haven't. Students is plural, so you want the plural. Haven't. Very good. The students haven't. Children haven't. Students haven't, because it's plural. All right. My pet goat wasn't or weren't eating correctly. My pet goat wasn't or weren't eating correctly. Goat is singular, so you want wasn't. Very good. The singular wasn't. Sophia isn't or aren't coming to school today. Sophia isn't or aren't coming to school today. Sophia is singular, just one person. So Sophia isn't. Use the singular isn't. Very good. Snowflakes is or are falling today. And that is true, isn't it? That's why we're doing virtual school. Snowflakes isn't, is, or are falling today. Snowflakes is plural, so you want to say snowflakes are. Very good. All right. Grandma was or were making a cherry pie. Grandma was or were making a cherry pie. Grandma is singular, so you want to use was. Very good. Grandma was making a cherry pie. All right, let's see. Now, I want you to look at the board while I teach you some new things, but we also need to look at a chart. I just want to make sure I didn't have any more oral things to do with you. Oh, we are good. All right, first thing I want to teach you is the fact about future tense. We did present tense, okay? And we did past tense where you added a D or an ED to the end of the word. And we're going to talk about future tense where you're going to need to put the helping word will. I will something, okay? Will with a verb. And we're going to do a few sentences with that. So you just need to remember to put the helping verb will with it, okay? So if you look at that first sentence up there, it says, tonight I blank my teeth. All right? There's one word that comes to mind about what you're going to do to your teeth at night, and that would be brush. But since we're talking future, in the future, tonight is in the future, it hasn't happened yet, we need to say will and then say brush. That is future tense for the verb. All right, next month, that is still in the future, we will something our reports. All right, so when it's the future, will, and thinking of our animal reports, we will finish our reports. Let's say finish there. But don't forget you need the word will to show the future tense. Last one, this summer, which again is in the future, my family will something on vacation. Don't forget the word will, showing future tense. Will go. Doesn't it make sense to say we'll go on vacation? All right. There might be some other words that would fit in some of those, okay, but I don't have your feedback, so I had to just go with what I went with. We'll brush my teeth, we'll finish our reports, and we'll go on vacation. But as long as you had the word will, you were still making it be future tense there. All right, the next thing we're going to be learning is something I've sort of been talking to you about since we've been doing contractions, and that is the fact that there are 3 forms of there. These are homonyms. There, T-H-E-R-E, there, T-H-E-I-R, and I told you, remember, it doesn't follow the rule. Just like the word weird is weird, so is this version of there. The I does not go before the E. Weird, the I does not go before the E, even though they're not after C or sounding like A. Okay, and then we have the contraction for they are, T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E, which would be pronounced there. So we have there, and we have there. So you need to know when to use which one. So the word there goes with where something is. Now I always teach it's easier to remember that because you see the word here in the word there. You see the word here in the word where. Is it here? No, it's there. Where? Here? There? Where? Okay, so you see how you can remember H-E-R-E, H-E-R-E in both words there and where, and then the word here, they're all talking about where something is. Is it here? Is it there? Where is it? Okay. Then for THEIR, this is showing ownership. Now I know we learned how to take a noun and make it show ownership by doing apostrophe S. But this is called a possessive pronoun. All right, so it shows ownership. The word THEIR doesn't need an apostrophe. It already shows ownership because it's called a possessive pronoun. Talking about a group of people and something that belongs to a group of people. All right? And then we have THEY', which is a contraction for they are. So if you were using this one, you would need to be able to replace the word there with the words they are. And if it still makes sense, then you know that's the one you're supposed to be using. Okay? Then we have its and its. We have ITS and we have IT''S. Now this is one that really gets confusing if you're not listening, because you've learned that to make a noun possessive, you add apostrophe S. But guess what? This apostrophe S is not making it possessive, because this is a possessive pronoun, just like their home, its bowl, talking about your dog or a cat, its bowl. It shows ownership. It's a possessive pronoun. When you see apostrophe S with it, it is because it is a contraction for it is. Therefore, you would need to be able to use the words it is in place of this. Okay, this is the contraction for it is. All right, then we have your, which is another possessive pronoun. Their, its, and your are all possessive pronouns showing ownership. And then YOU''RE is the contraction for you are. So again, here you would need to be able to replace it with the words you are. And if it makes sense, you know you're using the right one. All right, so let's look at the board. I have 4 sentences here. I dropped my sweater, so it's wet. Now, this one, ITS, is the possessive pronoun showing ownership. IT''S is the contraction for it is. So, does wet belong to it? Doesn't make sense to say wet belongs to it. So, can we say it is? I dropped my sweater, so it is wet? Yes. So, you want the contraction IT''S. It is. I dropped my sweater, so it is wet. So you would circle it is. IT''S. It's. All right. I can tell you're excited. All right. Does excited belong to you? Or are we saying you are? I can tell you are excited. Yes, we are. So you need the contraction YOU''RE. I can tell you are excited. I can tell you're excited. We're doing the contraction. What about this one? Have the children met their teacher? Have the children met their teacher? All right, THEIR shows ownership. The teacher that belongs to the children? That makes sense, but let's just check. This is a contraction for they are. Would it make sense to say, have the children met they are teacher? No, it wouldn't. So we know good and well that it's got to be the ownership version, THEIR. All right, last one. I set, oh, there's the one we already learned, sat or set, right? Sit or set, sit, sat, or set. Sit and sat were the same because they had to do with what did you do with your body. And set, S-E-T, was like the word lay, where you put or place something. I put or placed my bag, because you're putting or placing your bag, over there. And I have THERE or THEIR. Remember, this was where something is. So you're telling where you sat your bag, as opposed to this showing ownership. Well, guess what? There's not even another word that could belong to somebody. So we're talking about where we sat the bag. So we're using the one that has HERE, here. I said it here. I said it there. Okay, where? There. I set my bag over there. Where? There. Okay? All right, let's get our books now. And let's do the page, 2 pages, 119 and 120. All right, so if you look at your book on page 119 at the orange box at the top, it's talking about not confusing words. Okay, so let's read what it says in the orange box. All right, the first thing it says is its, ITS, is equal to it is, where ITS without the apostrophe is possessive, showing ownership. Then your, YOU apostrophe RE, is the contraction for you are, where YOUR is possessive, showing ownership, possessive pronoun. Their, THEY apostrophe RE, is the contraction for they are. Their, THERR, is possessive, showing ownership. And then the third there, THERE, shows where something is. All right, you're going to actually write these words in the blank. If it is the beginning of the sentence, you need to make sure you're capitalizing it. Okay, number 1 says, did you see the cassowaries over there? Now, I can say the word. I'm not giving you the answer because we have to figure out which one, because they're all pronounced there. All right? Are we talking about they are? Can you say, did you see the cassowaries over they are? No. It's not a contraction. Are you talking about ownership? Do they belong to somebody? No. You're talking about where something is. Did you see the cassowaries over there? Where? There. All right? So use the THERE version. Does not need to be capitalized because it's not the beginning of the sentence. Number 2, though, is the beginning of the sentence, and they are saying they're very large birds that eat fruit. Now, can you say they are? They are very large. Yes, you can. So you are using the contraction. Don't forget to capitalize it. And you are using the contraction for they are. So capital THEY apostrophe RE. Does it make sense to say it's ownership? Is it talking about the birds that belong to somebody? No. Is it talking about where they are? No. It is saying they are very large birds. All right? So use the contraction for they are. THEY apostrophe RE. Number 3, the mother cassowaries lay their eggs in the nest, and the father birds sit on the eggs until they hatch. All right? So the mother cassowary lay their eggs. Is it talking about the contraction they are? Can you say the mother cassowaries they are eggs? No. Are you talking about where they are? No, you're talking about ownership. It's the eggs that belong to the mother cassowaries and the father cassowaries. All right? So ownership would be THEIR. THEIR. Don't forget that one. All right, then you have their feathers are black and their necks are bright blue and red. All right, going to feathers. Are you saying they are feathers are black? No. Are you talking about where they are? No, that would be ownership, possession. So THEIR, and again, it's the beginning of your sentence, so don't forget to capitalize it. But the second one in that sentence, there are 2 in that sentence, their necks. Are you saying they are necks are? No, just like the first one. This one is also ownership. Very good. It's not talking about where they are. It's talking about ownership because it says their feathers, their necks. The possession of the feathers and the possession of the necks. They belong to those cassowaries. So both of them are the same there. THEIR. All right. Next section, you are going to use its or its. ITS is ownership or possession. Don't forget that. Whereas IT apostrophe S is the contraction for it is. So you would need to be able to use the words it is in the place of them. All right, let's look at number 1. The hummingbird builds its nest of bark and grass. Bark and grass. Would you say the hummingbird builds it is nest of bark and grass? No, you would not. So it's ownership. The nest that belongs to the hummingbird. Possession, ownership. So just ITS. No apostrophe. Remember, that is the contraction for it is. ITS is a possessive pronoun. All right, read number 2. Number 2 says, it's seldom seen, for it blends in with its surroundings. And we have 2, so let's start with the first one. The first one, is it talking about seldom belonging to a hummingbird, or can you say it is seldom seen? It is seldom seen. Very good. So you need the contraction this time. I-T''S. Don't forget it needs to be capitalized because that's the beginning of your sentence. Capital I-T''S because it is seldom seen. But let's look at the end of that sentence. It's seldom seen, for it blends in with its surroundings. Can you say for it blends in with it is surroundings? No. So that is ownership. The surroundings that belong to the hummingbird, right? ITS, ownership, possession, okay? ITS, no apostrophe this time because that's a possessive pronoun. What about number 3? Its wings make a sort of low hum, which is why it's called the hummingbird. Its wings. It is wings make a low hum? No. It is wings make a low, no. But its wings, ownership, possession, ITS. This one needs to be capitalized. Don't forget that. It's the beginning of your sentence. Its wings. And number 4 says, it's this sound that gives the hummingbird its name. Okay, again, we have 2. Let's look at the beginning. It's this sound. Can you say it is this sound that, yes, you can, can't you? The sound doesn't belong to the hummingbird necessarily. If it did, it wouldn't say this. You would just say its sound gives its name. But they're saying it's this sound. When it says this sound, it's not talking about ownership anymore, right? Okay, so it is this sound that gives the hummingbird its name. What about that one? Can you say that gives the hummingbird it is name? No. So it's this one is ownership. So the first one should have been capitalized and it should be IT'S because it is the word it is. It is this sound. It's this sound. And the second one is ownership or possession. The name of the hummingbird, its name, ownership or possession, so ITS. That one doesn't need to be capitalized. All right, and then last of all, we're going to work with their. I'm sorry, your. Your. The 2 different yours. Y-O-U''re is contraction for you-are, and Y-O-U-R, showing possession. All right, so first one says, you're going to enjoy seeing the emus. Sorry, it wouldn't focus. I'm having to use my little camera because my page is so much smaller than yours. You're going to enjoy seeing the emus. All right, so is it talking ownership? Does something belong to you? Does going belong to you? Or can you say you are going to enjoy the emus? Yes, you can say you are going to enjoy the emus. So use the contraction for you are or your, Y-O-U''re. All right, the second one says, when you're done looking at the parrots, let's look at the owls. All right, so does done belong to you? Is it talking about ownership of the word done? No. Can you say you are? When you are done looking at the parrots, let's look at the owls. Yes, you can. So you need a contraction for you are again. Y-O-U''re. When you're done looking at the parrots, let's look at the owls. Very good. Let's move on to the next one. The next one says, your little brother would have enjoyed all of these amazing birds. All right, so are you saying you are little brother? No. Are you talking about ownership, possession? The brother that belongs to you? Yes. So you need Y-O-U-R, no apostrophe, because it is a possessive pronoun. And number 4, I think you're going to have many things to tell your family about this zoo trip. So you have 2 to do. The first one is, I think you're going. Does going belong to you? That really doesn't make sense, does it? Can you say, I think you are going? Yes. That does make sense, so use the contraction for the first one. Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. I think you are going to have many things to tell your family. Now, does this one make sense to use the contraction you are? I think you are going to tell you are family. No. Does it make sense to say that it's ownership, the possession, the family that belongs to you? Yes. So this one is just Y-O-U-R. All right. As soon as you finish that, go ahead and turn the page over. And this is sort of a review page. We're going to do it together. It says read the paragraph and underline each common noun and circle each proper noun and draw a box around any compound nouns. Some nouns may be marked 2 times. In other words, they may be common and they may be compound, or they may be proper and they may be compound. All right? So let's begin reading. The Australia Zoo was started to protect animals and to teach visitors about the interesting and beautiful animals of Australia. All right, let's go back to the beginning. What is the very first noun? Let's just do every noun and we'll talk about what we're going to do to it. All right, I hope you're saying Australia Zoo. The very first one where it said the Australia Zoo is a noun. It's a place, a particular place, so therefore it is proper. What were you to do to proper? Proper nouns, you were supposed to put a circle. So circle it neatly. You need to do these neatly because sometimes we're going to do more than one thing to them. This probably would have been good to do different colors, like make your circles orange, okay? And make your underlinings a different color, and make your boxes a different color. That way I can tell what's what. Okay, so maybe you could get colored pencils and do this, but no matter what, you better do it neatly so that if you circled and underlined or circled and boxed something, I will know. Because what are you supposed to do to compound nouns? You are supposed to put a box. So you're either going to underline and box or you are going to circle and box some of them. Some of them you'll only do one thing. Let's circle it because it is proper. And then, is Australia Zoo compound? Yes, it is. It's made up of 2 words. It's made up of the word Australia. It's made up of the word zoo. Therefore, it's compound. So you also need to put a box around it. So you should have circled it because it's proper. And now you're going to put a box around it too. Okay? All right, moving on. The next noun you see should be the word animals. That's the next one I see. Animals is just common. So just underline it. And after that is the word visitors. I hope you saw visitors next. Visitors is just common. So underline it. And neither animals or visitors is compound. Moving on. Next row, I see the word animals again. So now in the same sentence, you've done animals twice. So just again, underline it. And then I see the word Australia. Australia is proper, so you need to circle it. But since it's only one word, it's not like Australia Zoo, where you had to also box it because it was compound. Australia is not compound. It was compound when it was with the word zoo, Australia Zoo. Now you're just going to circle it. Let's read the next sentence. The next sentence says, a large outdoor auditorium was built for a show featuring crocodiles. Okay, so the first noun is auditorium. I hope you didn't say outdoor. Outdoors can be a noun, but here it's not. It's an adjective describing the auditorium. It's an outdoor auditorium, meaning it probably doesn't have a roof, or if it does have a little bit of roof, it doesn't have walls. Okay, an outdoor auditorium. All right, so auditorium is just common, so it just needs to be underlined. The next noun, did you say the word show? Okay, so words like movie or play or show, if you're going to see a movie or a play or a show, those are nouns, right? So underline it. It's just common, not capitalized. And the last one should be the word crocodiles. Very good. Crocodiles, just underline it. It's just common. It's not proper. It's not capitalized. Okay? If you named a particular crocodile like the Nile crocodile, then that one would have been proper, but it's not. All right, next, let's read the next sentence. That was the last one for that. Crocodiles should have been underlined. The huge crocodiles often amaze people. Okay, that was a short sentence. First thing you see should be the word crocodiles again, so underline that one. And the other noun in that sentence is the word people. Remember, nouns are people, places, and things. And if it's just common, not capitalized, and if it's capitalized, it's proper. Unless it's capitalized because it's the beginning of the sentence, and then it's still common. All right? Oh, like the next sentence. The next sentence says, visitors to the zoo may feed kangaroos or even pet a koala. That very first word, visitors, we've already had that word. Visitors here is capitalized, but it's not proper. It's just the beginning of the sentence. Visitors is not particular. That's just all the people who visit would be visitors, right? So it just needs to be underlined, okay? Don't let that one trick you up. But we've already had the word visitors in the very first sentence. And we know that it is not always capitalized. It's only capitalized here because it's the beginning of a sentence. So it's just common. Underline it. The next one would be the word zoo. Underline zoo. It's common here because they didn't name the zoo this time. They just called it a zoo. Any zoo. They didn't name it Australia Zoo. They called it just zoo. So underline it. Kangaroos. Is that the next one you saw? Good. It's common, not capitalized. Underline it. And the last one would be koalas. Yes, koala. Just singular, but still common because it's not capitalized. All right, read the next sentence with me. Some people enjoy seeing the large, graceful tigers. All right, so the first noun would be people. Very good. Common, just underline it. And the last one would be tigers. Underline tigers. Again, just a common noun. All right, next sentence. No matter where people look, the Australia Zoo is full of places to enjoy interesting animals. All right, so what's the first